wasn't the plan. Don't wanna demand it, I've done what I can. And I never mentioned the times you were rude. And I never mentioned when you hid the truth. Scared to lose it all, I won't stand a chance. And I don't wanna fake it. What if I can't walk away? Got me saying away, hoping I don't make the same mistake. Same mistake. Hoping I don't make the same mistake. I don't like to leave things unresolved. Maybe it's madness. I'm begging you, please pick up the call. You're causing me damage. I should've known, wasn't your fault. Don't even matter. I wasn't thinking clear, trying to take it there. Scared to lose it all, I won't stand a chance. And I don't wanna fake it. What if I can't walk away? You got me standing in the rain, hoping I don't make the same mistake. Same mistake. Hoping I don't make the same mistake. I'm just standing in the rain, hoping I don't make the same mistake.
Hand out, she holds. It's feeling like we've been here before. We're both so broke. That's something that'll keep us afloat. Don't walk too slow. We can't keep falling deeper again. Came too close and the taste so far from pure. A rush of blood, but we search for so much more. We've all been here before. We've all been here before. We've all been here before. Hand out, she holds. It's feeling like we've been here before. We're both so broke. That's something that'll keep us afloat. Don't walk too slow. We can't keep falling deeper again. Came too close and the taste so far from pure.
Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Shenandoah University broadcast here in beautiful Winchester, Virginia. My name is Kevin Clayton, and today I'm joined by Willie. Willie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you, and I'm really excited to look for our next Tekken 8 matches coming up very soon. We have Moss competing on the Nina against who we believe is a Brian Fury player, and Brian, I think, is a very interesting character to watch, so all of you tuned into the stream tonight, you're going to have quite the treat in for you. Kevin, do we know much about this player?
In terms of like the skill level of this player, it's a little up in the air. A lot of Brian players tend to have a very strong game plan where they are just hitting so incredibly hard. So going into this match, what you're going to want to be looking out for is a lot more of seeing what Moss's game plan to sort of keep up the defenses, sort of make sure that he's staying in that block game. But as for the Brian player themselves, I'm expecting a more stock standard sort of gameplay, the kind of thing you would expect when you're going into like your normal ranked game type deal. So with all of that being said, this could be super interesting because on the one hand, a level of predictability means that Moss, we've seen him adapt multiple times on this desk before, but on the other hand, if this Brian comes out with some crazy tech that I've never seen, then by all means, kudos to him, but I'm expecting some very standard gameplay for tonight to start things off.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we're going to be looking for, like you said, is how Moss is able to defend against Brian. And something to note about Brian is that a big part of his game plan is going to be focused around sort of getting those long combos started where you can just deal a ton of damage in what feels like no time at all. And a huge part of that is going to be how you get it. And I know a huge thing that a lot of Brians like to do, there's like this orbital kick where he jumps up and sends you really high. It's like a mid hit that you have to block normally. But a thing that we might not see at a higher level Brian play because of how predictable it is, but we might see a little bit more at like intermediate sort of beginner level play is a move called a snake edge, where he does a very he gets very low to the ground and then does like a long sweep with his leg. It is a very large counter hit launching move where if it hits, it deals a ton of damage. It gets a huge combo started, but it's also very reactable if you know to look out for it. And that's going to be a huge test here for Moss, is going to be able to see if he's going to be able to keep up that defense long enough and then avoid the snake edge, or if he's just going to be holding back too long and then all of a sudden get opened up by that snake edge.
Yeah, we haven't had too many issues in terms of dealing with like the reaction on delay, reaction on online. Thankfully, you know, a lot of more recent fighting games have been getting the glories of rollback and all of that, but I am looking specifically, just because you do have something close to a one-to-one doesn't always necessarily mean that that reaction time will carry over. And I don't believe any people on Shenandoah's campus play that Brian, so Moss should have that muscle memory down in that online setting through his ranked climb and stuff like that. But as we go forward, if MossMan is going to try and find these openings, I do think his reaction game needs to be on point.
Absolutely. And like, even if it's just like a reaction thing on being able to see it and then immediately instinctively hold down back, like, it's not really that. Sometimes it's just a matter of if you know to look out for it. Because it's like, in theory, it's reactable. Because if you see the start of the movie, you'll go, okay, he's going for a low. But a character like Brian, who's going to be focused on trying to get so much damage with those mid hits and those high hits, you have no real reason to, like, duck him. Because all of his hits are not going to be gained or, like, avoided by crouching much. So it is really just a knowledge check, I think, that's going to be, like, one of the main reasons it's so good is because it's a knowledge check. And one of the reasons I said earlier that it could be not as seen as much at a higher level play is because those sort of Brian players have adapted already to just not use it because they expect to always get killed for it. However, some of the newer Brian players might go, oh, this move is just a free combo starter. I'm going to use that. And why not? You know, it's a great option. Yeah. But if you know the counterplay, it's a big scare factor, I should say, for Moss. And that'll be a huge part of what we see coming up tonight. Of course, not his only way to start out combos, but definitely one of the deadliest.
Yeah, and the more and more I start to see of, like, Tekken's game plan, we talked a little bit about this last week on the desk of, like, hey, you have tons of moves at your disposal, but people kind of fall into these, like, have 3 or 4 generally, like, strong openers, find your opportunities for your low, your mid, your high, and maybe like one of the power crush moves, and usually you'll be fine going forward. I'm curious if you've seen that. I know that you've been playing a good amount of ranked recently. I've seen your legendary Victor doing God's work. But with all of that, do you think it benefits you to stick to one game plan and then learn the footsies of the game? Or should you try to really encompass a full move set and then try to get that movement stuff down later?
I mean, I feel like the hard part about it is the option of going for that sort of one game plan idea and then sort of figuring out around it. It can be very much so like a sand trap for a lot of newer players. Like, for example, myself, one of the things I was a victim of when I was playing as my main Kazuya, I don't play Victor. It's but one of the main things that I found myself doing a lot was this string that is it's like a high, and then a low, and then another high. So it's the sort of thing that's able to get you out of a lot of situations in lower level play where people don't know how to deal with it. And I found myself using it a lot more than I might originally expect. The problem is, as soon as I started hitting the mid purple to blue ranks and I started running into people that knew how to actually deal with it, it became a lot more difficult to rationalize myself, okay, I can do this in this situation, because if my primary tool isn't working, that makes it so much harder to adapt to what other people are doing. Whereas it's scary to try and learn other options. If you try and learn all the things that Brian has, for example, he has 150 moves or something. That's a huge ask for someone just getting into the game. For longer Brian players, it might be not as big of an ask, but generally that's a huge time commitment in order to learn everything that moves does. And the huge part about Tekken is knowing when to use them, because with all those options, how do you decide when to do the low kick or the low high kick? It's such a huge aspect of knowledge of the game and remembering how to properly punish what your opponent does that makes this game so interesting to watch.
Yeah, as I've been learning more about the fighting game scene, just getting the understanding of how people approach these games, not only at that higher level but also just at that entry point, it's been fascinating to learn how people take learning a fighting game, because there are some people who just go into the lab and will just practice a combo day and night, and sure, they might lab it, or they might actually get it in the next match that they go into, but how do you get to that point, and can you encompass that, is the dangerous part. That's something that I've been noticing just in general, is a lot of players will take the time to be oh yeah, I can do big combo that does big number and single neuron activates monkey brain only. But the real aspect of this game is when you bring that forward. Yes, this might be your go-to combo. Maybe you love dealing as much damage as possible. You're trying to limit as many interactions as you can. But if you bring that point where it's just oh, this is all that I've got, this is a game of adaptations. You're gonna drown. It's rough.
And something I think is especially interesting is that all of the people you see innovating those combos and making new ones are always the people that never play like that. That instead learn about the fundamentals of the game, and that's what allows them to get those more innovative, creative combos that you might not see all the time, because they have to figure it out themselves instead of just learn it from a combo trial or a guide.
Yeah. So with all of that, for those of you at home, this is what you want to keep your eyes on. Is out the gate, round one, we're going to see that starting game plan immediately, where both players have their idea of how this matchup is going to go. They'll use their game plans throughout their moves to deal with each other's general game plan, and then whoever has that initial momentum is the one who's allowed to keep going. Keep with that game plan. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it will be on the person who's on that back foot to really implement that sort of adaptation style. And when you're dealing with Tekken, up to 5 rounds in any given round, and it's 5 series of rounds, you have a lot of time to adapt.
Especially considering the fact that there are very few actual death combos in Tekken. I've barely ever seen a combo that actually takes someone from 0 health or 0 damage to full dead. Yeah. A lot of the time, the big damage combos are going to be doing half health. And even if you do get a half health combo to start this game one, let's say, you're not ever going to be able to hit 6 of that exact same combo to take 3 rounds in a row. You always have to adapt, and you always have to figure out a new way to deal with the new positioning you've been dealt, the new moves you have to use in that situation, where your opponent may be, all of these different things. They combine to create a very, very, I want to say, like liquid game sense, where it's like anything can sort of flow, and at any time, anything could really happen depending on how that player is deciding to approach it. Like, do I keep doing this because it worked, or do I keep like doing, or should I try something else so that they don't expect when I do this next, or because they're already expecting me to do that? Like, that's a huge part of like any fighting game, but especially something like Tekken, where you have to make those decisions every single round.
Yeah, and I've been learning more about that, frankly, talking with, there's a lot of people in this arena who not only enjoy the esports side of things, but also the traditional side of things, where they talk about, hey, implementing that aspect of it and really bringing that forward. It's visual in any sort of competition where you can really mess with your opponent. If you're able to get into their head on that sort of stuff, it just adds a whole other aspect to it. Another thing I want to talk about just for a little bit, MossMan, I believe this is the first time we've seen Brian on this desk, but we haven't, like, the character feels powerful when you watch it, just hard hitting and stuff like that, and yet the reason we only see him this one time, I believe he just doesn't have as many tools in his kit as you would say, like Heihachi, who we have seen a dozen times, as well as just like most of the Mishimas tend to have presence on these broadcasts just because they have a lot of tools in their kit to deal with any sort of given situation. I'm curious, when it comes to like dealing with a Brian who's like can't necessarily stick with his game plan the entire time, do you think it will be more of a like low-based game plan? Can Brian have a low-based game plan, or is it more of like a whiff punch game?
It's gonna be weird because, like you were saying, like we haven't really seen Brian before on this desk at all. I think one of the main reasons and contributing factors to that is that Brian's actually like one of the harder characters to pilot. Like apparently he's like in the top 5 difficulty in terms of what I've seen. Like, it might seem like these combos are just like, he just keeps hitting you over and over and over again. It's like, it doesn't seem that difficult, but apparently all the things he's doing are like very situational. And like one of the reasons that he's so hard is because not only are those combos difficult, but like you said, you don't have like many other options to deal with people like properly dealing with the character in some instances, or like properly adapt to your game plan in a way where Brian is like, oh, I can do this instead. He can't really. And a lot of the time, he just sort of has to wait for his turn and find his opening. And if you're fighting a character who might be like too small or too evasive to ever hit with that, it's just like such a hard loss, and it's hard for a lot of players to just stick with Brian when that keeps happening. So I think even the fact that we're seeing one in general says a lot about this player's ability to stick with a character and their personal belief in how he can, or how they can pilot this character. So that's an interesting factor already. In terms of low-based game plan, all of his lows, I think, are pretty slow. And especially if you pilot Brian, especially just using those low attacks and not really taking advantage of those mids or those combos, like, you're gonna have success for like maybe 5 seconds. And then they're gonna crouch block one time, hit you with a launcher, and you're kind of just done.
Dang.
So we might see it, but not for more than a couple seconds, if that would be my guess at all.
Yeah. As we continue to wait for just a little bit on this match, I am curious to see this sort of approach of a character who isn't picked up by a majority of the player base, or at the very least has those players stick with them. The only other player I believe we saw was the lady last week whose name I'm forgetting, who had the doves.
June.
Yes. So, and we saw how scary that June was. When you have character knowledge like that, it's a whole other game. But we have gotten word that we are going to take a very quick break while we wait for this match. So don't go anywhere. We will be back in just a little bit. And we are back. So sorry about the delay. We had a little bit of technical difficulties getting in contact with the other opponent, but all of that has been squared away, and we will be getting into match shortly, which means we will be able to see this Nina versus Brian action. My name is Kevin Clayton, and I'm joined by Will. Will, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling great. Now that we're actually in the lobby, getting ready to play, I can't be more excited to just watch some really good Tekken right now. As we hop right in, we're immediately seeing a very
solid Brian player by the looks of it.
This might be more fun than we expected initially. As we head into this first game, we're going to be seeing right now how exactly these players are going to want to lead. I have to imagine, maybe something along the... immediately getting into it right there.
Yeah, Brian immediately taking the step back. I'm wondering if he's willing to play this game a little bit slower and do exactly the opposite of what we were talking about before, where the character is so aggressive, but this time around, he's willing to play it just a little slow to get things rolling.
Absolutely. We were seeing a little bit of that jump orbital kick we saw earlier. He's not immediately opting for something like the snake edge, but is opting for the string. And there's the snake edge I was talking about. Doesn't get the combo off of it as Moss adapts immediately, just sort of gets the chain grab. Will he be able to break it? I don't believe he did right there. That's going to be all his white life gone right in Rage Art territory right now. Moss might be in position to take this as he doesn't break the grab and takes round one.
Now, I may be wrong, but I'm seeing that rank in the top right, Willie, and for comparison, I believe that is a little higher than where MossMan is. I think I may be getting my colors mixed up, but I think it's starting to show a little bit as this Brian is just starting to get a good amount of damage going. I
mean, right now, it feels like at any real rank, this Brian knows how to get his combos started, like with that snake edge, for example, and he's not able to do that. It's going to be much more of an uphill battle than it might have thought. Right now, as he gets the running kick and stomp as he lays on the ground right there, it doesn't seem like he has many options to MossMan's offense as he gets another round off of him. We're going to have to see some major adaptation, or possibly Mouse might be opting here to just sort of try and get a better stage pick maybe. Just sort of opt into a little bit of a better role right now, but right now it seems like he's getting his footing back as he gets immediately another counter hit, Snake Edge, to immediately put this into a position that is very bad for MossMan right now, about 33% life. Right now, it seems like the tables are turning, however.
Yeah, I mean, look at this right now. MossMan is seeming to get a very good advantage state going off, but the Brian player, once he gets his momentum going, it seems as though both players have really great advantage, but MossMan has been doing a really good job of breaking out of that disadvantage.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I heard him go, ha ha ha. And that means he popped the heat smash to try and armor through whatever move he did next. Moss calls it out hard with the Rage Art right there to immediately take the round 1-0 right now.
A very strong start from MossMan, and again, another strong call out using that Rage Art early where the players are not always ready for it. A lot of players tend to hold back, assuming that the Rage Art, since it can just be blocked, don't go for it, right? Players are very easily swayed, and MossMan very deliberately making sure that both sides are aware you have to respect it.
It's absolutely a fear factor thing as well. When he presses so many buttons all at once, he just feels like he has to finally have his turn right at this point, and then he throws out the Rage Art to immediately end the round. It's just a very, honestly, a risky gamble, and I'm shocked it worked out just as well as it did, but it played out perfectly right now as Brian answers back with a clean set round win to put him right now 1-0 in the set. Leads off with a jab string right there. He might be able to get something huge off of this right now. Has no heat popped right now. He probably will off of this right now just to extend the combo. Doesn't offer a snake edge right now.
Look at this advantage state again. This Brian doing so much on the initial round, but we do see MossMan getting that grab to start things off, and now he is the one getting that momentum back. This Brian has struggled to get out of these sort of situations, but now as we reset a little bit back to neutral, where Brian is looking for his opportunity, there it is. We may see a strong enough hit, but no, Brian is going to be pushed back once again.
It feels like right now, even in these neutral situations, it feels like things like entire round-ending combos are just being determined off of the smallest like neutral interactions. And who's able to get that hit first, it always explodes for whoever's on the other end of it. And it feels like the offense is really well executed right now, but I was about to say the defense might be a little bit lacking, but it appears I'm immediately wrong as Brian is able to break a grab he's been getting hit by all game right now. I guess I'm wrong. Maybe this adaptation can be happening as he gets another combo starting to get a little bit more warmed up. Gets the wall set up right now. This is a dangerous situation for Moss. How is he going to be able to break out of this one? Does yet another throw right now. What will be the option off the ground here? Goes for a running kick into possibly like a heat smash or something. There it is. There it is right there. Brian just barely out of Rage Art. Now he is right there. This will kill if it's able to connect, but if Nina gets a low hit exactly like that, that will take the round, putting him in a 2-1 position, one away from taking the second round.
Yeah, Nina usually has those 3 slaps, but instead, MossMan using the low mix-up to get that final bit of chip damage in, as we do see in this round. Brian started things out with the heat activation, but it is very quickly dwindling as he is able to get one grab going.
It's just right now we're seeing, again, so much of this adaptation coming into play as all of these options feels like every time there might be just something a little bit different that happens right now. Brian on his very last legs. He blocks the low that time. Oh my goodness, what an amazing crouch block. And gets hit by the counter hit low slide immediately as we go into the third game of this set right now.
Yeah.
I honestly have to say, this is pretty impressive on Brian's end, but the game count doesn't seem to reflect it. I have to wonder if maybe the small size of something like the stage, like we're on Arena, which has like a 24 by 24 like radius, where you'll get the wall pretty quickly on a stage like this. I have to wonder if Brian here, as we're going into a second stage for the latter part of the set, he might want something a little bit larger, something like Yakushima, something like Coliseum, where, you know, you have all of that space to work with, because it feels like Brian's not really opting for many of the options that you can get as we go into Midnight Siege, another stage with extremely small walls that might be not exactly what comes into play. We might see a little bit more of those wall options to continue some of these combos. But right now, we'll have to see.
And as we hop into this round, if MossMan takes this, that means he will walk away with the series win. But all 5 games will be played out no matter what the outcome. And so as Moss gets a good amount of damage to start things off, it very well may fall into his favor.
Leading right there at the very start, we saw the little flash right there. That means both of the players did a jab at exactly the same time, and it traded with each other. So we're seeing right now both of these players looking to establish their offense even more from the very start. And that exact same idea coming into play is very interesting as we see Brian take the first round right now. How is MossMan going to be able to respond? Possibly with something like sidesteps or something to just try and evade some of this offense that's been blowing him up so much in the past.
Yeah, using that low sweep. This Brian hasn't been blocking low and really just trying to get his game plan going of his own. So Moss is trying to take advantage of that, really dance around what he's got going. But now Brian hit up against the wall, and Nina, not having too many great options, will still be able to find the option to close that out as we hop into round 3.
I mean, right now, it feels like, again, you were saying Brian isn't blocking low, but over time, it feels like he's just sort of realizing, sort of a little bit slowly, but definitely effectively, I need to block here. He's going for these sort of low hits. There has to be a way I can deal with this, and instead he's opting for that. But Moss immediately goes for the Blonde Bomb. The Power Crush option is a mid right there, meaning if you duck it, you'll get hit with even more damage, and he gets a counter hit to end the round. It feels like right now, any adaptation that this Brian is making is just getting hit back so hard and so fast by Moss, just completely stuffing it out like, okay, you want to block my lows? I'm going to do a mid. Okay, you're going to block my mid? I'm going to go back to doing a low sweep. But right now, we're seeing the Snake Edge might be a bit of a huge combo for Brian. Right now, up against the wall, this could be deadly if he's able to continue this even further. But instead, goes for his typical combo ender, eating a huge heat smash right there, as it feels like this game has been backed even out of nowhere.
Yeah, we do see the heat activation, trying to get that little bit of extra damage in. MossMan going for the Rage Art off of the hit, but this time it is blocked as Brian gets a very strong grab, but isn't able to close things out just yet, as MossMan was able to regen a lot of health, but one more good kick means that MossMan will go down.
In a situation like that, you know, when you're in the corner and you have so little life, sometimes the best thing to do is just keep using those very small, fast lows that are going to be able to be just a little bit. I looked away for just a second, and he seems to have broken a chain grab, which is, did he duck that high? Oh my goodness, this Brian is just pulling these defensive options out of what feels like nowhere, but as we were saying, you know, this game is all about adaptation and how you're going to be able to deal with these options differently, and no matter how good those ducks might have been, Moss is just answering back with some hits of his own to potentially take this right now and declare himself a victor, as he doesn't break the grab and he moves on to 3-0. That declares a set win, but will he be able to win the next two as well? Because right now, at the pace we're seeing this adaptation, I could imagine seeing this Brian come back stronger than ever.
Yeah, while MossMan does get the 3-0, and he will get the benefits that come with it, we will see the rest of these matches for seeding's sake going forward, which means we may have this Brian player start to adapt, but I've also been noticing this Brian player has hit that point in the pressure where they're not going too hard on the offensive. We're seeing, look at that, a lot of them just backing away, trying to take their time and really find whatever opening they want. And yes, they'll get a lot of damage from it, but it's going to be on them and on MossMan specifically to really keep his options close, keep the pressure on this Brian while keeping his openings minimal.
The scariest part about playing a character like this that excels so well in advantage state but doesn't have that many other options when it comes to adapting and just playing around what your opponent is doing is that you can choose this more defensive route where you're just sort of blocking all these attacks, but not only might it be too late, like you get hit by one straight hit and it immediately ends the round like exactly like that, but then a lot of the time you fail to realize the reason you were getting like those rounds in the first place is because of this more offensive side that we're seeing for this Brian, which is why I feel like the best way to counterplay in these situations is to just mix that defense in perfectly with the offense, which is an insane ask for any level of player. Right now, we're seeing, you know, it feels a lot more even than ever. Like, even if Moss is to take this next round, it feels like this is some of the closest that we've seen these two players get as they're sort of in the play more, you know, get a little bit more of a feel of where the other person is, what they're trying to opt for. Moss trying to answer a little bit more with like these grabs or these low hits, possibly another sweep coming in right here. But like, oh my goodness, like that's a move we haven't even seen yet. Like, we're seeing so many of these different options come into play as that initial level of adaptation ends, where it's like, okay, I don't want to do low anymore, I want to do high, or I want to back up. Now we're seeing that even more complex way of how do I back up, how do I block? As Brian immediately takes that next round, we're going into game 3 here with a perfect 1-1 tie. So right now, this could go any way in terms of the players, but right now, immediately, he's been hitting that Snake Edge to start this round every single time, and it's been catching MossMan up until this point where he gets the huge low block, gets the heat dash right there. Brian immediately going to be put at like 75% life right now as he tries to struggle his way back. But right now, getting the heat, this could be a turn.
Look at the damage buildup as Brian is still using that heat, getting a good amount of damage, and the wall bounce, but no combo follow-up means that Moss will get a couple of hits in return and is able to break out of that grab as another low sweep will get a good amount of damage, but MossMan in the pixel health does call out that low hit, is able to get a good amount of damage going, trying to keep that advantage going, mixing it up with the low, but is on pixel health. Just about anything may be able to take it out, but the grab combo is going to keep Brian in a very close spot as both players are on pixel health, but Brian walks away with that round.
Especially with something like Snake Edge, I have to imagine the nerves are on an all-time high right now, because when a move like that has been doing you so much good and it just all of a sudden stops working and it's getting adapted to, you just have to realize, oh, the risk that comes with this move. It might be strong, but it's so risky. Like we were seeing, MossMan was blocking and getting such a huge punish every single time. So it's just such a scary thing when your primary option doesn't work that you have to opt to these different options, like we were seeing a different heat engager right there. Like we're seeing this Brian slowly realize, okay, my core game plan is no longer working. As he gets grabbed twice in the corner, he is wondering if maybe as he breaks that grab, I might be wrong. He might be feeling a little bit better, sort of getting an understanding of where MossMan wants to be in this situation. That's going to put him at very low health because of chip damage, leading the slide to take us to a game 5 right now. This could honestly be explosive on either end.
Yeah, we did see Brian has been doing a really good job now of finding these openings. He was playing very patient before, and now that he's found his opportunities to really get that damage going, ducking over highs like that, he may have openings, but MossMan is just keeping up that pressure, making sure that if Brian is going to go for a move, it needs to be while MossMan is on the backswing and not anymore, as he just keeps the pressure going one move after another.
It really does feel like one of the most destructive parts of MossMan's gameplay that we've seen over all of these different matches is the ability to just switch between these options on the fly, like do a high into a mid into a grab and keep your opponent what feels like guessing in an option or in a situation where it doesn't really feel like they can do anything else. It's bizarre in that sense because you have okay, so I should be doing these things, I should be able to find my openings, but in reality, Moss is able to just keep up the pressure with so many different things that require so many different defensive options. It really sets up this situation where it's like, what can I do here? Like, if I keep getting blown up, if I keep getting hit by these things I can't react to, what is the way to deal with it? And I believe that sort of aspect of it might be why we're seeing this difference go into the Brian and the Nina in terms of how well they're playing and how well they're adapting, and that might be the reason why Moss is up so much. Just the ability to keep mixing, the ability to keep going. As we head into this next round right now, Fallen Destiny going to be a stage with a little bit more space. I know the Stormy Rock is a little bit larger, and it doesn't have that many, I don't think this stage has that many floor gimmicks. I know there's another one that looks similar to it that has the wall break, or the floor break, I should say, but I don't believe that is this. Right now, it's just going to be sort of a clean fight between the two players right now as he gets a huge orbital to start up this combo. Brian looking to immediately establish himself with at least one game on the set before his final moments, but gets a grab immediately to put Moss 1-0 in our final game of the night.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it again. While we do have just a little bit more space, and both players taking a step back, taking their time, trying to evaluate if they're trying to get aggressive. I mean, we're seeing it again. This Brian player is doing a lot of sitting back, using his time to make sure whatever opening he has, it will get that damage. But again, MossMan, whether he's plus or not, is just keeping that pressure going because the Brian doesn't know where this opening is. And while we do see one opportunity here, look at the damage buildup. I mean, these combos are doing so much.
Especially the amount of the counter hits we've been seeing tonight has been insane. The amount of times that we've seen these players just try and think of these options and they just so happen to land on the decisive one at exactly the same moment is really something I find fascinating to see at any level of play where both of these players just immediately decide at the same moment, especially in something like this where we know this adaptation is happening so fast. It's really shocking to see when those things happen at exactly the same time. But right now, Moss is looking to establish himself with a 3-0 right now, setting up this Brian very dominantly in the corner. As he gets a Snake Edge, this might be huge damage. Right now, looks to activate the heat. Could opt for something like a heat smash right now as soon as he finds that opportunity to establish at least one game in this set. We're going into game 4. Brian with a little bit more confidence on the board. This could, honestly, I could see this being a reverse sweep if he's able to continue this sort of momentum up.
Yeah, but MossMan getting that first hit to start things off, and while we do see Brian trying to swing back there, it wasn't quick enough as MossMan is just building up this damage and taking advantage of his momentum, and it is so valuable as Brian gets two really good meaty hits onto MossMan. One good grab will... That KOs. Wow. I did not think that would KO.
I didn't think it would KO either. I guess just the distance from the wall really did it. Like I was noticing, especially in that match, because like we're constantly in the corner, and especially for that round in particular, it felt like there were so many instances where they were both in the corner, where it was like the combos were just not getting extended as much as they could be because they kept hitting the sidewall. That seemed to work very badly against the Brian there, just because that throw immediately sent him back straight into the wall. I think that might have made it do more damage than it would have normally.
That makes sense because, I mean, we've seen a good amount of like hardy grabs that like really rack up the damage, but they're usually the chain grabs, right? You keep them going for longer and longer and all of that. That was just one good flip, and it did a solid almost like fourth to a fifth of their health. So, hey, kudos to MossMan, because not only does he get that, but he also walked away with a 5-0 win today, which is a very strong performance for this sort of competition.
Absolutely. This is going to be great for his seeding and great for him in the future. You know, going to have a much better shot at some of these future matches that we're going to be seeing. But that right there is the kind of game that you want to have in a situation like that, where both of the players, it feels like, are adapting so well and like so like fundamentally to each other. You really want to be able to come out with those options and those abilities to turn that sort of set from a close 3-2 in order to a dominant 5-0.
Yeah, and so with all of that being said, I do want to acknowledge that we only have just about 1 or 2 more weeks of the regular season for the CFGC. The finals week of competition is going to be happening the week of Thanksgiving, depending on what your game title is, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Some matches may be rescheduled, but we're nearing the end of this, and that means that these 5-0s are going to be critical. With all of that being said, this has been a lovely time, and so I hope all of you enjoyed. We are going to be calling things here, and I look forward to seeing all of you on the next broadcast. So thank you all for stopping by. Take care.